It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does on a Monday. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Lots to do over the next 60 minutes. It's Monday, and there's college football still being played. We had a Heisman winner announced over the weekend. That means Bill Bender is dropping by from the Sporting News. That's coming up in about 10 minutes. Lots of NFL reaction to get to. NBA Cup final is on Tuesday. We have two teams lined up for that. We've got a Monday Night Football game to talk about and a whole bunch more. And we start things out with our friend Sammy Arnell, who hangs out with us on the program. Week 15 in the NFL is just about a wrap, Sam. I put this question up. I posed it on my X feed at the back page if you're looking for me there. And I said, which game, this was a decisive week, it felt like for me. As far as where everything is headed. Like, I just felt like I came out of this week with a lot more clarity. Which game sort of impacted that clarity the most for me? It had to be the Bills and Lions. That's the one that sort of is, it's not a wake-up call. We all knew the Bills were really good. Great, in fact. And we all know that the Lions are great, but we also know the Lions right now are without Aiden Hutchinson. That the impact of that obviously was clear on what we saw on Sunday. And they have a head coach that likes to make boneheaded decisions and coach from his gut and coach with his ego. And it got him in trouble yesterday. And we're talking about a Bills team that went into Detroit and beat what a lot of people thought was, sort of the favorite to win the Super Bowl this year, Sam.
Yeah, well, you've got a new favorite to win the Super Bowl now, and that is rightfully the Buffalo Bills. Listen, as much as this game was awesome, it was even better than it probably indicates. I know that the final score is 48-42, but if you watched the game, you saw the Bills got out to a 2-score lead, and then for the last 3 quarters of the game, just kind of played prevent defense because they knew that the Lions weren't going to be able to stop that offense. By the way, the Bills also, I loved the narrative going into this game that the Lions were so hurt and all that. The Bills were starting their 4th and 5th safeties in this game, starting a corner off the practice squad and missing 2 of their starting linebackers, including a former All-Pro, by the end of the first quarter in this game. So that's why you saw so much offense. I mean, there were people in the betting markets, obviously, who knew that there were going to be a ton of offense in this game, and obviously the markets were correct. This was amazing. The Buffalo Bills are a juggernaut. Ben Baldwin, who writes for The Athletic, put it best, I think. The Buffalo Bills offense right now is a death machine. I've talked all season long about, the Kansas City Chiefs obviously being the reigning defending 2-time world champions, what it will take to eliminate them from playoff contention or from the playoffs this year, from Super Bowl contention, is a buzzsaw. And this is the first week, especially after the Rams game last week and the 35-point performance against the Niners in the snow the week before. This is the first week where you can kind of safely say the Bills have what it takes to be that buzzsaw that runs right through Kansas City in the postseason. Yeah,
they have what it takes. It remains to be seen if they'll be able to execute it when they get to that spot. The Josh Allen stuff just blows my mind. Like, I mean, the transformation from a guy that sometimes you wondered if you could trust him to not turn the football over in a big spot or make the right decision. What he's done here over the last, the first 14, 15 games of this season has been remarkable in that regard. The way he's protected the football. I mean, he is hands down right now your MVP, given what we've seen. And to me, that's as big as, as anything, is you feel like you can trust him to take care of the football. A year ago, I don't know if I would have said that. A year and a half ago, I don't know if I would have said that. Now I can say that safely with him. And to me, that's as big as anything.
I think the thing that speaks the most to that, and I think one of the most underreported stories this season, or underreported narratives, is that is a product of Stephon Diggs leaving this offense. Stephon Diggs left this offense, and it got insanely better because they didn't have someone barking for targets every single game and creating off the field drama in the locker room with the quarterback. This is the first time they've gelled together off the field, and it's showing on the field. Like, Josh Allen has become the fearless leader that this team needed him to be and that this offense needed him to be, and it's showing in his MVP style play. Really quick, because we got to get to the other game. Quick shout out to Haley Steinfeld. They got engaged during the bye week. Since then, Josh Allen, 14 total touchdowns, 1.3 thousand yards, 1,300 yards, 0 turnovers, 0 sacks taken. Jason, we know how much players' wives, especially quarterbacks' wives, can influence them. We see that in certain Netflix documentaries. It's great to see that Haley Steinfeld has had such an impact on Josh Allen so far.
Make sure to get the prenup, man. That's all I'm going to say. Chiefs Browns.
She got more money than him, brother.
No, come on. No way.
The movies that woman has been in, I would bet you that Haley Steinfeld is the breadwinner in that relationship.
We'll do a net worth check a little later on. Chiefs Browns. I'm serious. We will. Chiefs Browns. The big story coming out of that game. Not that the Browns won. By the way, Harrison Butker, nice field goal miss there from under 30 yards. I'll always root for Harrison Butker to miss field goals. But the big story coming out of that game is obviously what happened to Patrick Mahomes. The ankle injury, it's a high ankle sprain. It doesn't seem like it's going to end his season. It might end his regular season, but certainly you would expect he'll be there for the playoffs. He's a guy that's played through pain before, but still, it just feels like everything is stacking against this Chiefs team. And, I mean, look, they're 6-1 now. You mentioned the odds. We got the Bills at 420, the Lions at 450, the Eagles at 500. You got to go to the second row to find the Chiefs at 6-1 right now to win the Super Bowl. It just feels like everything is stacking up against this team.
Texans, Steelers, and Broncos are their last 3, and if it's Carson Wentz, I do think there's a discussion that we need to open about them going 0-3 in those games just because of what Carson Wentz is at this point in his career. I don't think Carson Wentz is going to start a single one of these games. This happens every year with Patrick Mahomes. He gets a mysterious ankle injury in the last 4 weeks of the season, and he somehow manages to play through it all the way to the Super Bowl. I am not at all concerned with regard to the injury problem for the Chiefs right now.
Sam, I'm going to tell you, 3 games in 11 days, there's no way he's playing every game. There's no way. Carson Wentz is playing somewhere here. There's no way. I would guarantee it. I would put good money. But no. I'm talking start. No. There's no way. 3 games in 11 days, a high ankle sprain. They've got to get him somewhat right if they're going to make any sort of Super Bowl run. He's got to sit. He's got to sit. I don't know if it's this week. I don't know if it's. He's going to sit. There's no question. And they'll have to figure out a way with Carson Wentz and hope that defense can continue to stand on its head. We're coming back with Bill Bender to talk college football, the Heisman, the playoffs, and more next. Welcome back to this Monday edition of Sports Wrap. Let's do some college football. Bring in our friend Bill Bender. From the Sporting News, he does a terrific job on all things football. All right, let's start with the most recent news, and we'll get into the playoff games and preview all that stuff coming up in about 10 minutes. But Travis Hunter wins the Heisman. Was it closer than you thought it would be? I mean, closest race since, 2009 as far as the vote goes, and Ashton Genty's feeling a little hurt about the way it turned out and expressing that. But let's talk about the vote itself. How surprised were you?
Well, I think when I saw Dennis Dodd ran the straw poll, and I was involved in that, that I knew Hunter was probably going to win the award. I didn't know the vote would be that close. I thought Ashton Genty had a compelling case, and both of those guys had a compelling case as a dynamic 1-2 that was a little bit different, not the quarterback MVP award like it normally is. But I think Travis Hunter's the right choice. I mean, playing both sides at a high level, all-American teams are coming out this week. He's going to be a corner on some, a receiver on others. I know we had that debate at Sporting News. Ours is coming out Wednesday. And when you're having a conversation whether or not to put a guy on both first-team All-American teams, the offense and the defense, that's Shohei Ohtani's type stuff. So I have no problem with Ashton Genty finishing second. with Travis Hunter winning the award, with the understanding that what Ashton Jeanty did was pretty incredible too.
Hold on a second, Bill Bender. Did you just say this is Shohei Ohtani type of stuff? Did you really just say This is Shohei Ohtani? Come on, the guy just went 50-50. I mean, look, I love the Travis Hunter story, but we're going to call this, I love you. But come on, we're going to call this Shohei Ohtani stuff? Really?
Well, if Shohei didn't pitch this year, so I will say that. He stole bases and hit home runs in a game where everybody
I get it, but I look at Ohtani. I mean, Ohtani who will pitch next year, by the way. I don't know. And I still wonder at the next level what that looks like, as far as how teams are going to use him. If I ask you this real quick, and then I'll let Sam jump in. Don't make that face, Sam. I will let you in. Ashton, at the next level, Ashton Jeanty, bigger impact, or Travis Hunter, bigger impact?
Probably Hunter. I think Hunter will play receiver. I think he'll have a longer career at receiver. He'll either be a slot receiver or wide receiver. They'll mix him in at corner, but I think his future at the next level, it's kind of like the reverse of Champ Bailey. Champ Bailey played receiver at a high level in college and also played corner, but we kept him on the defensive side of the ball. Jeanty's going to be good, though. Like, there's people questioning his day one, day two, day three value. And you want somebody like that who can take the pounding between the tackles and then still have the ability to break away. I mean, in his frame, he just looks like a guy to me that's going to be just fine at the NFL level. Be able to be a force in between the tackles. I really like his value.
Bill, I got to jump in on this Travis Hunter stuff before we get to some other stuff around college football. But obviously the guy won the Heisman, an award that I think was a little more questionable for him to win was the Biletnikoff. Obviously he comes away with that over Nick Nash and Teteroa McMillan. Kind of give me your thoughts on Hunter winning that over a guy who won college football's Triple Crown in receiving this year.
Right. That was, again, when you make these All-American teams, you have to revisit all these discussions, and they're hard ones. I think he obviously had a really good season at receiver. I think he set the tone in that first game when he caught 3 touchdowns against North Dakota State, made a couple catches that only a few receivers in college football can make. And he was consistent on that side of the ball. That's why I think he was more, if you were asking me what's Travis Hunter more of an All-American, defensive back or receiver, I would pick the offensive side of the ball. I think he had more of an impact there. Not saying he wasn't good at defense, but he was a game changer there. Nick Nash had a huge season. Teteroa McMillan had a huge season. Xavier Restrepo had a huge season at Miami. So all of those guys were kind of deserving of the Biletnikoff Award, in my opinion. It's another award I get to vote on, and I enjoy it, and it stresses me out. But I have no problem with who they picked.
North Dakota. Wait, hold on a second. You're killing me today. North Dakota. You're pointing to a Travis Hunter game against North Dakota State as the game that lifted you up this year. Really, North Dakota State?
They are a powerhouse.
Oh, they're a powerhouse in FCS.
Well, how much different is their season if they lose that game? I would say probably a lot. There were some people picking that. It was a trendy upset pick, and then down the stretch, I mean, we can also say, hey, he started the season with four straight 100-yard games. Then he ended the season with 3 touchdowns, and now you're going to tell me Oklahoma State's no good. So
yes, I am.
The thing about Travis Hunter,
exactly.
At least I'm fair. I thought he always had a knack for making the play and always being there at the right time, whether it was offense or defense. And I know, some of those games you could say, well, he was intercepting Utah's third quarterback. Well, he still made the interception. So, again, compelling case for Jeanty. Like both of them, there was a compelling case for Cam Ward, if we're being honest. If Miami would have made the playoff, I think he may have won the Heisman.
Bill, obviously Army-Navy this past weekend. Navy comes away with the upset over the American Conference champions.
Yeah.
But Kanye Udo, the Army running back, announces his entry into the transfer portal, obviously before his 3rd year being at a service academy. And then Bo Prabula, the backup quarterback from Penn State, also announcing his entry into the transfer portal before his team goes into the college football playoff. Obviously, the timing of this is very interesting because the next time these guys could transfer is like April or something. Do you foresee any change on the horizon with regard to the transfer portal process in the NCAA?
They should. I mean, the Prabula one's huge. It actually impacts the game because he played a lot and he's part of run packages in Penn State's game plan. And if Drew Aller goes down, now you're down to a quarterback. I believe they have a freshman from around here in Columbus that would play. That would impact the playoff. It's the same as last year. Malik Murphy transferred before the playoff. I was wondering if that would happen. I didn't think it would, but I think it points to why this calendar needs fixed. And I get it. Well, how are you going to fix it? They have school. They have to be in these schools. Maybe they can do an exemption. I don't know. But there's just something that doesn't sit right when you have players leaving before playoff games. It definitely diminishes the product. There's no question. Or we scoot this thing up. You know, you trim off a regular season game, start the playoff 2 weeks ago. I mean, that's another solution.
Bill Bender's hanging out with us. Not seen in his video because the way we have it cropped is the Travis Hunter poster to the left of him.
That's right over there, yeah.
He's coming back. I'm still buying him a steak dinner. We're coming back. Coming up in 10 minutes, we got some more NFL to talk about. A lot of football on the show today. For obvious reasons, a decisive Week 15 in the NFL, as I said to start the show. But let's talk some more college football. Our friend Bill Bender is here from the Sporting News. He has so graciously decided to hang around for another segment, even though I've been breaking him off on him for his love of Travis Hunter. Yeah, you got anything you want to say for yourself on Travis Hunter? You got anything else you want to say? I want to leave the floor open to you, sir.
No, I mean, I was skeptical at the beginning of the season. I got made fun of at work saying I wasn't a believer. So,
well, then you should call HR, because if people are making fun of you at work, then you should call HR. That's
there you go. So I came around. I mean, it was, like I said, fun debate. But I know there are other things going on in college football other than a Heisman Trophy that already was rewarded.
For a guy, go next? For a guy that's not even playing in the playoffs. Let's talk about let's talk about it. And speaking of these playoffs, which is obviously so exciting, Bill, what is the game of these first four that has you the most, that you're like most amped up for?
I mean, I'm hoping they're competitive. All four have a spread a touchdown or more. I mean, I would say right off the bat, Notre Dame, Indiana's supposed to snow. Signetti's popping off again, saying they should have been at home for this game. Jesus. And they need to run the ball a little bit to have some success. I would say the weather's going to be a factor. That's what I'm excited for.
Neither of those teams should have had a home game because none of them played anybody this year.
Right. Well, they can argue about that, but I think it'll be a competitive game. And then I'll be in Columbus.
I'm cranky today. I'm sorry.
You are. You're edgy.
I am cantankerous.
That's great. Today. I love it. Ohio State, Tennessee at Ohio Stadium on Saturday because of the duality of those narratives, right? Like, hey, finally got Tennessee. Tennessee's not really a deep South school, though, right? Like they're in the mountains. It gets cold there too. So I understand that, but it's supposed to be 20 degrees, 100,000 people. What is the mood of Ohio Stadium like if they come out and go 3-and-out on their first two possessions after the Michigan loss? I mean, that is a thing that I'm anxious to see, and we'll see how the Buckeyes respond. But I think that's going to be a competitive game. So those two, I think, will be competitive. I actually think Penn State and Texas are going to maybe not be as competitive.
Other than cold, is weather going to be a real factor this weekend? And I'm not asking you to be Jim Cantor here, but is there anything we know about weather being a factor this weekend other than just temperatures?
It's going to snow a lot in Notre Dame, Indiana. Snow is in the forecast. It is going to snow. Here in Columbus, it's supposed to be clear and cold, but clear and cold is still cold. Happy Valley, going to be cold, snow. Okay. And then Texas is supposed to be 60 degrees to 40 degrees, which down there is cold. So that is winter jacket weather in Austin, Texas.
There you go.
They're athletes. I always say that they're athletes. If you can deal with it, you can deal with it. If Ohio State was playing Miami or Florida State, and I've watched games where Notre Dame's played Florida State and Miami up there, and they start winning and the guys are huddled around the heater, then it's a factor. But I think it due to the competitiveness of those games that I mentioned, maybe not. Not for Tennessee. I don't know. I never lived in Knoxville, but I know that where it's situated, that's not like living in Atlanta.
Go ahead, Sam.
Bill, a lot of talk all around that maybe it's just Penn State fans saying this, but a lot of people think that Penn State may, depending on the Beck injury situation, have the easiest path to the playoff of the teams that didn't get a bye. I would ask you for your opinion on that. Who do you think has the best chance to make it all the way to the Natty of all of teams that weren't in the top 4?
I mean, Penn State's got the easiest path to the semis. They've got to take care of business against SMU and Boise State. They're going to have to run the football well this weekend against an underrated SMU defense. And that could get interesting, especially, like I mentioned, Prebula being out. That was a part of their game plan. So, you're taking at least one thing out. But I still think they win that game. The 2 games that I think are going to determine this bracket, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but Notre Dame, Georgia's one, because we'll find out about Georgia's quarterback. I do think Notre Dame wins on Friday. And if they beat Georgia, I would probably pick them to beat Penn State. And then Ohio State, Oregon, of course. If they get to a rematch of that classic on October 12th, Oregon got the worst path in some ways. You got to go play Ohio State or Tennessee, then turn around and play Texas. I mean, that's not easy for a 1 seed. And I guess it's not supposed to be easy, I suppose, but definitely not a friendly path for the Ducks.
Are we underrating this Texas team in terms of just among the conversation that we were just having, in terms of they got to walk through Clemson, a team that's just barely in because of the outcome of that ACC championship game, and then Arizona State, who I guess some people have said has been underrated this year, but it feels to me like Texas has a great shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is some undervalue because all we do is talk about Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. And when we forget that their secondary is awesome, their defense played well against Georgia. If they run the ball against Clemson, and Clemson struggled in their losses stopping the run, gave up 200-plus yards in 2 of those losses, that will be a blowout if Texas can run the football. And we'll see what they've learned. I think some of it's that long-standing big game reputation, the whole Texas is back joke. But if Quinn Ewers plays the way he's playing, I think Georgia's just a bad matchup for him. They really are. They can get in a shootout with anybody. It's just Georgia on the interior line, especially on defense, gives them some issues.
Having had a week to sort of soak in this bracket and the way it's set up, and college football having a chance to see now, what this whole thing looks like, where do you think the biggest chance for changes in this offseason in the way this thing is structured?
They need to reseed it properly. I mean, we were talking about that last week. You need to have it seeded properly. You probably need to – it's not going to happen right away. I would advocate, like I said, for bumping this thing up a week. Just so we're not, Ohio State, Michigan was 3 weeks ago. And at some point, they're going to have to reevaluate what they want to do with conference championship games, though the argument this year is going to be, look, they mattered. We made them matter. And SMU, Clemson allowed for both of those teams to get in the playoffs. So I think some conferences may actually advocate for them. I'm kind of the opposite. I think we've had 12 weeks to figure out who the 12 best teams are.
All right. Yeah, go ahead. We only got 40 seconds here, so I was just going to open the floor. Go ahead. Yeah.
The Quinn Ewers thing. Who's the offer from, and is he leaving or is he going to the NFL?
Michigan State reported, 24/7 Sports reported that, the Spartans, that's credible. It's a credible report. I could see Big Ten schools going after him. I could see him going after the NFL, but I will tell you this. I will be stunned if anybody other than Arch Manning comes out of the tunnel in week 1 next season when they play Ohio State. I think he will be their starting quarterback next year.
Bill Bender, Sporting News, doing a great job as always. Thank you, my friend.
Hey, no problem. You guys have a great week.
All right, let's take it to segment 4. It never fails. Bill Bender goes on his merry way, and then there's more college football news, Sam. It never fails. Never fails. What happened? What happened
Bill
that we're not going to be able to discuss with Bill?
We talked so much about the Penn State quarterback room and Bo Pribula announcing his intent to transfer and foregoing the college football playoff. Well, the guy who will be under center for him, Drew Aller, announced that he will forego the NFL draft this year. He'll be back at Penn State, leading them out of the tunnel in 2025, potentially, as we talked to Bill about there in the end of that last segment, against Quinn Ewers, maybe Michigan State, maybe Oregon. Who knows? We know he's got an offer out there from the Big Ten. I think it'll be fun to watch Drew Aller, Quinn Ewers again next season.
Very good possibility we see that. All right, Sam Yarnell, more on NFL Week 15 and what we have learned. What we learned is the Colts aren't ready for primetime yet. I don't think there's any question about that. Between Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball just before he crosses the plane at the end zone, and then this double quarterback pass, or this double pass play that you've got, the Colts calling in a big spot on the road, down 4 in a game you got to have, which winds up going for a pick 6. What do we got to say about Indianapolis?
Well, I mean, speaking of Texas, poor A.D. Mitchell with that pick 6. That was just, Jason and I were talking about this in the proverbial green room. Like, there are teams that can run that play.
Yes.
There are teams that are in spots where they can run that play. At no point this season have the Indianapolis Colts been in any spot to run that play. I don't care if it's Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson, Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell, Michael Pittman, like any of them. None of them are fit with the way that this team operates or has operated this season to run that play. So that's that on the pick 6. On the Taylor thing.
Yeah.
There's a weird dichotomy in the media going on here, right? Jason and I talked a lot about this too after just throughout NFL Sunday, after the game and during the media availability. It was like every single Colts reporter was asking Jonathan Taylor
the same question over and over.
A different way, the same question. It was like, how do you feel about dropping the ball? Were you not concentrating when you dropped the ball? What happened when you dropped the ball? Was it the play call's fault you dropped the ball? It was like everything.
Were you switching hands?
Right. That was a real question that a reporter asked. Like, what are we doing here? The team just lost 31-13. The touchdown inconsequential at that point. The defensive collapse is what they should have been asking about. And it kind of makes sense why Jonathan Taylor is getting the leeway that he is in the national media because of this drop, because people understand the position that the Colts are in. People understand that Jonathan Taylor is 2 seasons removed from being a first-team All-Pro, leading the league in rushing yards, being the hands-down best running back in the league. The guy deserves a lot more credit than it seems like Indianapolis media are giving him after this game, Jason Page.
What do we think of Denver? What do we think? What do we think of the Broncos right now? At 9-5, that's what I'm kind of curious, because they've won 4 in a row after dropping 2 in a row to the Ravens and Chiefs. They beat the Falcons, Raiders, Browns, and Colts. So you go, it's the Falcons, Raiders, Browns, and Colts, but. Now, I don't want to play him in the postseason. I don't want to play that team in the playoffs.
This is a team that, 6 weeks ago.
I love their quarterback. I love Bo Nix.
When Bo Nix really started to turn it around, we started to say on this show, hey, this is one of those teams that could backdoor into the playoffs and win a wild card game against a team they really should not beat. Now, what I didn't have on my 2024 NFL season bingo card was the AFC West potentially becoming like the second best division in the AFC. That's wild. The AFC East is like comfortably third, which is crazy. Obviously, no one cares about the AFC South, and everyone knows the AFC North is full of juggernauts. But the AFC West might be the second best division in the conference right now, just because of how well the Broncos and Chargers have shown themselves to be this season with new coaching staffs and new quarterback. Well, old quarterback in the case of the Chargers, but new quarterback in the case of the Broncos.
I think we'll learn a lot about the Broncos over these final 3 weeks, though. at LA against the Chargers, who have become a bit of a fraud, let's be honest. At Cincinnati against the Bengals, and home for the Chiefs.
I want to know. I want to know what the. I want to know how the Chargers became frauds.
I'm not high on the Chargers. I mean, if anybody's listened to this show, I'm not particularly high on the Chargers.
They got boat raced this week by a good Buccaneers team who you and I have both talked about being frisky, but they get beat by the Chiefs on a walk-off doink-in field goal that the Chiefs probably shouldn't have made. They beat the Falcons. They beat the Bengals.
Falcons are garbage. Bengals are garbage. Titans are garbage. Browns are garbage. Saints are garbage. Look at their wins. They beat the Panthers and the Raiders. Other than that, they haven't beaten anybody, Sam. I mean, if we were doing, and I actually want to do this as an exercise, maybe tomorrow on the show. If this was like college and we were talking about rankings, who have they beaten? Who's Jim Harbaugh's team beaten?
It's the whole thing because we're comparing them to the Broncos, and it's the whole thing the College Football Playoff Committee just did.
Yeah.
They have the head-to-head. The Chargers beat the Broncos.
They did. Can't disagree with that. I like the way the Broncos are playing better right now, though. That'll be an interesting game next week.
They've gotten hot as this season has gone on.
For sure. We're coming back. Much more to do. Something to consider now. All right, we proceed on this Monday edition of the show. Coming up in 10 minutes, Sam will return for Odds and Ends and a conversation about teams that know how to tank and teams that don't know how to tank. And they both reside in New York. Well, New Jersey. They're called New York, but they reside in New Jersey. That coming up, plus some Monday Night Football betting advice for you as well, but something to consider. I don't want to say it's necessarily as bad as the Cowboys, but it feels like we've gotten to a point with the Lakers where they're sort of like the Cowboys in that we talk about them. They're relevant because they're the Lakers. They're relevant because they have talent and they make coaching changes and they've got LeBron James and Bronny James is playing and Bronny James and LeBron play together. But it feels like we talk about the Lakers for all the wrong reasons, doesn't it? And in that regard, it feels like in some ways they have become the Dallas Cowboys. We talk about the Cowboys a lot. I actually got to a point where it was just kind of boring to even talk about the Cowboys this season. It's the same story over and over, right? And maybe the Lakers aren't at that point yet, but it feels like they're creeping closer to that. The longer we sort of go through these things. LeBron James is sitting out. He's out for personal reasons. They've got, 2 games in 10 days, so he decides to take a break. He comes back last night, and they win. And they're talking about this foot injury, and he's talking about this foot injury and getting himself right. But doesn't it all feel like it's starting to lead to that point where we're talking about LeBron retiring at the end of this year? That this feels like it could be the farewell season for LeBron? Or will he want that proper farewell season where everybody's giving him gifts and everybody's giving him something and they're having a ceremony before the game? Is LeBron going to want that, or is LeBron just going to say, you know what? It's a wrap. I got to play, a couple minutes with Bronny. I've gotten him his opportunity in the league, combined with obviously some level of talent that we're still trying to discover and figure out what it is. But watching LeBron and what felt like a great story at the start of the year, maybe he'll play 82 games. All right, that's not happening. Maybe the Lakers could be a playoff team. All right, well, that doesn't feel like it's happening. Where are they going to improve this roster? To the point where last week we were talking about Bill Plaschke from the LA Times writing an article that essentially said they should trade away LeBron James. Now you even have some of the media in LA getting on board with the idea that maybe the Lakers need to trade away LeBron James. Not going to happen. I was talking about it with somebody that covers the league yesterday, and it's not going to happen. There's so much that would have to be done from a standpoint of finding a team that has enough resources to send back and not completely deplete their franchise just to bring in LeBron James, it doesn't make sense. It's probably not going to happen. But this is the reality. We're talking about the Lakers for every reason except can they contend? Because that's the one thing we know the answer to. And the answer is no. Reports of the demise of the UConn Huskies men's basketball program have apparently been greatly exaggerated. Remember how bad they were at the Maui Invitational? Losses to unranked Memphis, Colorado, and Dayton in that tournament. Lost to Dayton by 18, in fact. That narrow loss against Colorado, the narrow loss against Memphis. Well, now the Huskies have beaten Baylor, 15th in the country. Gonzaga, number 8 in the country. They've won 4 in a row in that span. And all of a sudden, everybody's feeling good about the Huskies again. It's a long college basketball season. This is a team that's in a position that no team in this generation has really been in before. The opportunity to win 3 in a row. And Dan Hurley is probably the right guy. Don't worry, he'll tell you that himself, by the way. Just go and look online. Dan Hurley's the right guy right now in the situation they were in, having lost a few games in a row, to sort of right the ship. And the college basketball season is long enough. I'd rather see a team lose 3 games in a row this early in the year, before you're even getting into your conference schedule. We're not even into conference play yet. That's about to start, though. We're not even into that portion of the schedule yet. And we're talking about a UConn team that has sort of righted itself after this stretch where they obviously struggled in Maui. By the way, not to be forgotten in the conversation about basketball and in particular the NBA, we have the NBA Cup, which will conclude on Tuesday night. They're even putting the game on ABC. That's how badly the NBA wants you to care about the NBA Cup. But I got to wonder how many people. I mean, it is a Tuesday night and there's nothing else on that it's competing with, so maybe people will watch. But Milwaukee and Oklahoma City is your NBA Cup final. And here's the sad part. And I heard Colin Cowherd talk about this, so I'll give him credit. I don't want to, say this is an original thought. You've got 2 great teams meeting up. Well, I don't want to say great. Milwaukee can't play a lick of defense, but certainly star power with Giannis on that team. Playing against an Oklahoma City team that's obviously one of the best, if not the best, in the West. But are people really going to be motivated to tune in that game on Tuesday night? I'll be interested to see what the numbers yield. We'll obviously let you know on Wednesday or Thursday's show. But certainly not the same as having the Lakers in that NBA Cup final like they did last year, is it? We're coming back with odds and ends to wrap things up next. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby. Before we do, make sure to check out Sports Wrap with Jason Page, the podcast, Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, you name it. We're on all of them. Go and subscribe. It's free, as is our Substack. Sports Wrap with Jason Page Substack, available wherever you get your Substack, which would be on Substack. There you go. Without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, let's talk tanking. The Giants are tanking correctly. They are going to do everything in their power to make sure they get the number 1 pick. They and the Raiders competing atop the tankathon list, as we like to say, Sam. The Jets, they never know how to tank correctly. And this has been years of this, by the way. For as bad as the Jets have been for all these years, when have they had the top pick? Anybody tell me? As bad as they've been year in and year out, not making the playoffs for more years than anybody in American professional sports. Think about that. When do they get the number 1 pick? They don't know how to tank. Yesterday being the latest example of this. Aaron Rodgers, yeah, baby. Him and Devontae Adams turn back the clock, and the Jets win? When you really don't want to win right now? Ugh. It just gets better and better if you're a Jets fan.
Yeah, so the database that I use doesn't go back as far as the last time the Jets had the first overall pick.
See?
So I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it in that little minute and a half blurb there from Jason Page.
It's awful. It's so bad.
Yeah, it's so funny at this point, folks. I can't do anything but say that I tried to tell you at the beginning of the season, one of my best bets going into this year in the NFL was the Jets to miss the playoffs. And my goodness, was that free money. And it was plus money too. It was like plus 120 when we took it, something like that. Might have even been plus 150. It's comical that this is an organization so poorly run, so poorly managed, so poorly owned, so poorly played for, that even when they win games, it's bad for the franchise somehow.
Once they've had the number 1 pick.
Was that the year they took Joe Namath?
No. 96.
I thought it might be.
96 Keyshawn Johnson.
1996. Hey, that worked out. Keyshawn Johnson wasn't terrible.
They got the second pick with Zach Wilson in 21.
Right.
That's the highest, but they had Mark Sanchez number 5 in 2009. That's it. A bunch of number 3s. Sam Darnold 3, Quinnen Williams 3. My God, they're the worst. They're just the worst.
And that makes a lot of sense because I think the database that I was using tracks data going back to 2000. So, man, it's so funny. Like, what is it going to take for this organization? It felt like, and I was young when this happened. It was a long time ago. But even when they got to like the AFC Championship game, it felt like a fluke. This is such a unserious organization. And I was talking to Jason about this. I can't even remember if it was during the first segment of the show or in the green room at some point. But I was looking the other day, someone made a graphic of division winners of every division over the course of the last 5 years, or division standings through week 15. Each of the last 5 years through 15 weeks of the season, the Jets have been last place for 3 of them, second to last place for 2 of them. Those 2 years have been the years that New England, a team that has so far tanked correctly, has been in the midst of their tank. One of which produced Drake May, who I would argue has shown you thus far in this season, he's better than any quarterback the Jets have had throughout their last tank.
Sam, I could do an hour on these Jets draft picks that I didn't hear a word you said because all I'm doing is looking through all these stupid picks of this team. Blair Thomas. I mean, my God, with the second overall pick. I mean, my God, they have gotten it wrong so many times. I don't know how Jets fans do it. Yeah, go ahead, because we got to get to the Monday night game real quick.
I'll just say credit to a faithful fan base, because they've also had to root for the Mets for the last 30 years, and that hasn't been much better.
Oy vey. Bears-Vikings tonight. Vikings -7. Minus 320 on the money line, plus 250 if you want the Bears. 43.5 is your total. Do you like anything?
Well, I don't know. This is definitely the better game of our doubleheader, but it feels easy. Vikings and the under.
I don't like it at all. I'm not a big fan at all. If anything, I would probably go under. That's the only thing I like. Yeah, because the Bears have lost so many close games. It's hard to sit here and say it's not going to be close. So I'd probably just lean on the under at 43.5, but not in love with it. I'd go under 43.5, but probably not much more than that I would touch. I still can't believe the Jets won that game yesterday. What do you think about what are we just not going to talk about Falcons Raiders? Do we have to?
You need the Raiders to win tonight for the Giants to get the first overall pick. I like the Falcons. I like the under in this one too.
Why are we doing 2 Monday Night Football games again? Why? Can't watch 2 games at once. Not effectively. We're out of time. I'm in a cranky mood today. I'm gonna go drink some happy juice or something. Thanks to Bill Bender. Thanks to you, Sam. We'll see you tomorrow.